AITA for throwing my wife's life away after she ditched me and hurled her ring at me? I'm 31, male, and I own a construction company in Phoenix. I started it with a $15,000 loan from my dad right after high school. I spent 5 years working 70-hour weeks. Now I have 2 employees specializing in high-end residential remodeling, clearing about $280,000 a year after expenses. On top of that, I flip houses for another $60,000 to $80,000 a year. The house I live in, I built it myself 3 years ago. It's 3,200 square feet on a 2-acre lot, valued at around $520,000. I have no mortgage because I used materials at cost and did the labor myself. In the garage are my restored 1969 Camaro, my work truck, and my motorcycle. I'm giving this context because all of this is what attracted Vanessa 4 years ago at a friend's barbecue. She was 25. She was a social media coordinator at a startup that folded 8 months later. Blonde, fit, with that polished Instagram look, always talking about her personal brand and building her influence. The red flags were everywhere. She never paid for anything. When we moved in together 6 months in, she quit her job to focus on her online presence. But she was beautiful. The chemistry was incredible, and I liked being the successful guy who could take care of everything. When she brought up marriage 18 months in, I was ready. I spent $14,000 on her ring. We had a $35,000 wedding that her family couldn't contribute anything to. That's when the problem started. First, she'd complain about small things. The house was too far from the city. My truck was embarrassing. We needed to eat out more, travel more, upgrade our lifestyle to match our income level. As if she contributed anything. The last year got worse. She joined a ridiculously expensive gym to be around successful people. She started going to networking events for aspiring influencers, always talking about elevating our lifestyle. The worst part was when she started comparing me to other men. Julio from the gym who owned fitness centers, Derek, who flipped luxury homes, Brad with his boat. Successful men know how to scale their businesses faster. Scaling my business, as if she knew the first thing about construction or real estate. 3 weeks ago, she told me we needed to refinance the house for investment opportunities. When I asked what kind, she showed me an $8,000 crypto course and a $25,000 mastermind for female entrepreneurs. I said no. Huge fight. She called me closed-minded. 2 weeks ago, she started going out with the girls every Friday and Saturday, but these girls included men from her gym. When I confronted her, I was controlling and insecure. Last week, she came home at 2 a.m. from a business dinner with high-value entrepreneurs. And then came Tuesday night. I was on the couch after managing 3 job sites, eating takeout because Vanessa was out doing business development. She walked in like she was storming a castle. We need to talk. Not even a hello. Tight black dress I'd never seen before. Expensive heels. About what? I asked. She was pacing like a caged tiger. About how I'm suffocating in this small town, small-minded life you've built for us. Small-town life in the $520,000 house I built with my own hands. Where is this all coming from? From realizing I married someone who thinks small, acts small, and wants to keep me small right along with him. I stood up slowly. Excuse me. I'm 26. I'm smart, ambitious, and I am wasting my prime years playing house with someone who drives a 10-year-old truck and thinks owning a single construction company makes him successful. The audacity was unbelievable. This, from someone whose greatest business achievement was selling essential oils on Instagram for 3 months. That construction company pays for this house, your gym, your shopping, and everything else you enjoy. And I'm supposed to be grateful? Settle for being a basic suburban housewife when I could be with men who actually build empires. Empires. Yes, empires. Men who understand that real wealth comes from thinking bigger than one small business and a house in the suburbs. I already knew where this was going. So what are you saying, Vanessa? She looked at me with pure contempt. I need space to explore my potential. I need to remember what it's like to be around real entrepreneurs who think in millions, not thousands. Real entrepreneurs. Men who understand leverage, scaling, and building something that matters, who aren't afraid to take risks for bigger rewards. I almost laughed. This woman thought networking was taking selfies at expensive restaurants. And what exactly do you bring to these relationships with real entrepreneurs? Her face flushed. I bring vision, strategic thinking, and the ability to connect with high-value individuals. Strategic thinking? You wanted to spend $8,000 on a crypto course from some guy on YouTube. At least I'm thinking about growth instead of collecting checks from boring clients. Those boring clients cleared $280,000 a year. That's nothing compared to what real visionaries are doing, she said, pulling out her phone. Like Victor, who I'm meeting tonight. He's a real estate syndicator putting together a $50 million fund. A real estate syndicator. Someone who pools money from investors for large commercial properties. Sophisticated investments you'd never understand. And where are you meeting him? At a private investor meeting downtown, where they talk about serious money. At 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. Successful people don't operate on standard schedules. Vanessa, what's your end game here? I asked. She grabbed her purse. My end game is to stop apologizing for wanting more than this mediocre existence. There are opportunities out there for people who aren't afraid to think big. Victor is offering those opportunities. He and his partners are building a high-net-worth network. They're looking for smart, ambitious people for their investment group. What kind of investment group? The kind that requires vision, capital, and the ability to see past traditional limitations. How much capital? The entry level for accredited investors is $25,000. $25,000 for a guy she'd never met. And where were you planning on getting $25,000? From our savings, from the equity in the house, from liquidating your conservative investments. My conservative investments that grew 34% last year. Vanessa, this sounds like a scam. Of course you'd say that. You're so risk-averse you can't recognize a real opportunity. A real opportunity doesn't require upfront payments to strangers. They're not strangers. Victor has been mentoring me on wealth creation strategies for 2 weeks. Mentoring you where? At the gym, at coffee shops. Wherever successful people connect organically. And what else has Victor taught you? Investment psychology. How to think beyond traditional income. How to position yourself for exponential growth. She spoke like she'd swallowed a motivational seminar. And at tonight's meeting, Victor is introducing me to Derek, his partner, who just closed a $12 million commercial deal. They want to talk about bringing me into their inner circle. And what do you bring to that inner circle? Intelligence, ambition, and strategic networking skills, like connecting with high-value individuals and identifying profitable opportunities, like the crypto arbitrage fund Derek is launching next month. Another red flag. Crypto arbitrage, a sophisticated trading strategy exploiting price differences between exchanges. Derek developed an algorithm that generates 15 to 20% monthly returns. 15 to 20% monthly. It's definitely a scam. Vanessa, this is a scam. See? You're so negative. This is why I need space to grow around people who support my vision. Your vision of giving our money to strangers in exchange for imaginary returns. My vision of building real wealth instead of settling for middle-class mediocrity. Middle-class mediocrity. I owned a successful business, a custom home, and investment properties. All right, Vanessa. You want to explore options with Victor and Derek? Yes. Then go explore them. She looked at me, surprised. What? Go to your meeting. Learn about real estate syndication and crypto arbitrage. See what opportunities they offer you. Really? Really? But understand that if you walk out that door to pursue business opportunities with other men, you're making a decision about our marriage. This isn't about other men, it's about business. Business at 9 p.m. with men who want you to bring them $25,000 in cash. You're being deliberately obtuse. I'm being realistic. But go ahead, explore your options. She moved to the door, checking her makeup. Finally, someone who understands that growth requires taking risks. Vanessa, I said. She turned. When you realize those men are running a scam, don't come home expecting me to fix the damage. She laughed. When I'm part of a multi-million-dollar investment fund, you'll realize you almost lost the best thing that ever happened to you. That's when she took off her wedding ring. You want to know what I think of your boring, safe, small-minded marriage? My stomach sank. I think it's been holding me back from my true potential. She threw that ring at my chest so hard it hurt. The sound of it hitting the hardwood floor and rolling under the table was like a gunshot. I'm going to go remind myself what it feels like to be around successful men who aren't afraid to think big. Don't wait up. If you walk out that door right now, we're going to have a serious problem. She was already leaving. Good, maybe it's about time. The door slammed shut, rattling the windows. I stared at my wedding ring under the table and realized something important. She thought she was teaching me a lesson about appreciating her. She had no idea the mistake she had just made. I picked up the ring and sat down, thinking for a full 45 minutes about the complete, calculated contempt I had just witnessed. At 10:30 p.m., I transferred every penny from our joint account into my business account, all $52,000. Then I locked the 3 credit cards she had access to. At 11:15, my phone rang. Vanessa, what did you do to my cards? My cards? No, our cards. I secured our joint assets. You declared our marriage was holding you back. I could hear music and voices in the background. You can't just cut me off financially. I'm protecting our assets from someone who said she's exploring options with other men. They're not other men. They're business partners. At 11:15 on a Tuesday night. What kind of business exactly? Victor's penthouse is where high-net-worth individuals network. That's when I heard a male voice ask if everything was okay. It's fine, she told him. Then to me, you're embarrassing me in front of important people. Just turn the cards back on. Who's asking if you're okay? It's Victor. He's concerned about my financial situation. Victor is concerned about your access to my money. Put Victor on the phone. What? Put Victor on the phone. I want to hear about these opportunities directly. I heard a muffled conversation, then a smooth voice. Hey, this is Victor. Your wife is just networking with successful people. What's the name of your company? I want to look up your track record. I work with various private equity groups. The real estate market is very dynamic. What's your business license number? Pause. Look, man, maybe we should just let Vanessa enjoy the networking event. My domestic situation. Yeah. She mentioned feeling limited by conservative thinking at home. Sometimes ambitious women need space to explore bigger possibilities. And you're offering her those bigger possibilities? I'm offering her access to accredited investors who understand wealth multiplication for a $25,000 buy-in. Exclusive opportunities require qualified investments. That's how sophisticated finance works. And how sophisticated is your financial track record? I've been in real estate syndication for 8 years. With what firms? With various private groups. Look, this isn't really appropriate if she's trying to build her investment portfolio. I heard Vanessa. Just hang up on him. He's being ridiculous. Victor, help me understand something. What exactly does my wife bring to your network of accredited investors? She brings vision and strategic thinking. Strategic thinking about what? Identifying high-growth opportunities and building wealth through relational capital. Victor, one last question. What's the dress code for your real estate syndication meetings? Long silence. Dress code. My wife mentioned getting dressed up to make the right impression for business purposes. Vanessa in the background. Oh my God. Just hang up. Look, man, I think you're overthinking a professional networking event. I'm trying to understand what kind of real estate syndication requires my wife to look attractive for successful men at a penthouse party. The call disconnected. Vanessa called back, furious. You just humiliated me in front of extremely important people. I humiliated you by asking basic questions about their business. You made it sound inappropriate. Did I? Why couldn't Victor explain his company or provide any credentials? Because you were hostile. You don't interrogate successful entrepreneurs like they're criminals. I asked the questions any serious investor would ask. You don't understand this world. These people operate on trust and relationships, not corporate red tape. They operate on trust? You met this guy 2 weeks ago. I met him through networking. He's been mentoring me on investment psychology. Mentoring you at the gym. What kind of mentoring? Wealth mindset coaching, relationship building, positioning for high-value opportunities. Then I heard Victor again. Come on, V. You're missing Derek's presentation on the crypto fund. See, Vanessa said. Sounds like Victor is eager to continue your education. Don't be rude. We're learning cutting-edge investment strategies. What strategies? Derek explained how crypto arbitrage generates 20% monthly returns with minimal risk through automated trading algorithms that exploit pricing inefficiencies. And how much does that require for an initial investment? The minimum for the crypto fund is $50,000. But Victor thinks I could start with $25,000 in real estate syndication and then move up to $50,000. $50,000 for mathematically impossible returns. Vanessa, listen to yourself. You want to give our money to strangers in exchange for impossible returns. They're not impossible. You just don't understand sophisticated finance. I understand that legitimate investments don't promise 20% a month. You understand construction and flipping houses. This is institutional-level finance. I heard several male voices cheering for her to come back. Sounds like your educational opportunity is continuing. It is. Derek is explaining the technical details of the arbitrage algorithm. At midnight, successful people work different hours. Vanessa, if you stay at that party, don't come home tonight. What? You heard me. If exploring these opportunities with Victor and Derek is more important than your marriage, then do it. But don't expect to do it while living in my house. You can't kick me out. I live here too. You threw your wedding ring and declared our marriage was holding you back. Wives live here. Single women exploring options do not. You can't be serious. Choose right now. Come home and we'll work on our marriage, or stay and work on your investment opportunities. I heard urgent whispering, like she was being coached. I need time to think. You've had 3 hours. I need an answer now. More whispering. Fine, I'm staying. I will not be controlled by your jealousy and insecurity. Good luck with your investments. I hung up and called a 24-hour locksmith. I woke up at 6 a.m. to my phone vibrating off the hook. 22 missed calls and 67 texts from Vanessa. 2:47 a.m. Hey, the presentation is over. I'm heading home. 2:53 a.m. Why isn't my key working? 2:58 a.m. Seriously, are you not going to answer now? 3:15 a.m. This is ridiculous. Just let me in. 3:28 a.m. Fine, I'll wait in the car, but we're talking about this in the morning. 4:23 a.m. I'm at a diner. Call me. 5:33 a.m. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. We can talk. Too little, too late. By 1:30 a.m. the night before, everything that belonged to Vanessa was packed in boxes in my garage. I had changed the passwords to every account she used, removed her from the car and health insurance, and canceled her gym membership. At 8:30 a.m., I heard her car pull into the driveway. She sat there for 10 minutes, probably rehearsing her story. She looked rough, wrinkled dress, messy hair. She knocked softly, then harder. Daniel, I know you're in there. We need to talk. I opened the door, but stood in the doorway. We can talk from here. From here? Just let me in so we can discuss this like adults. You don't live here anymore. Remember, you declared our marriage was holding you back, and you chose the opportunities with Victor over our relationship. I was upset. I said things I didn't mean. You can't hold one bad night against 4 years. One bad night. When you threw your wedding ring at me, went to a party with strangers, and said you wanted to invest our money in their schemes. She tried to push past me, but I didn't move. This is insane. You can't lock me out of my own home over a misunderstanding. My home. Check the deed. Check who built it. Check who's been paying for everything while you built your personal brand. Her expression shifted from confused to furious. So this is about money. You're destroying our marriage because you think you own everything. I'm not destroying anything. You did that when you told Victor the first was holding you back with my conservative thinking. Look, I know how that sounded, but how did it sound, Vanessa? It sounded worse than it was. Victor and Derek were explaining investment strategies to me. At 2 a.m. at a penthouse party. Successful people work unconventional hours. Show me their business licenses. Show me their track record. Show me any proof that they're legitimate investors. She couldn't. I don't have to prove anything. You're just jealous because other men see potential in me that you don't. What potential? What exactly do you bring to the table besides access to my money? Long silence. I bring intelligence and vision. Intelligence? You wanted to invest $50,000 with guys promising 20% a month. You don't understand sophisticated investments. They were a scam, Vanessa. They target married women with money, make them feel special, then convince them to invest in fake opportunities. But I could see the doubt creeping in. Where are Victor and Derek now? Are they offering to help you find a place to stay? Her silence was answer enough. Let me guess. Once the presentation was over and you couldn't access my money, their interest in your strategic thinking cooled off. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Are they returning your calls this morning? Another pause. I haven't tried calling them yet. Because you know they won't answer. She started to cry with rage. Fine. Maybe they weren't legit, but that doesn't change the fact that you're being controlling and manipulative. Manipulative? I gave you a choice. Come home and work on our marriage or stay and pursue your opportunities. You chose the opportunities. I chose wrong. I admit that. But marriages are supposed to survive mistakes. Some mistakes, yes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a calculated decision to prioritize other men over your husband. What do you want me to do? I can't undo last night. I want you to call Victor right now. Ask him about those investment opportunities. She reluctantly pulled out her phone and dialed Victor's number on speaker. Straight to voicemail. Maybe he's sleeping, she said weakly. Try Derek. Same thing. Voicemail. She tried 3 more numbers. All voicemail. With no access to my income, she was worthless to them. They're probably just busy with other deals, she said, without conviction. They're probably looking for their next mark, someone else's wife, with someone else's money. She sat down on my front steps with the phone in her hand, the realization dawning that her business opportunities had vanished when her funding disappeared. So what now? She asked quietly. Now you figure out how to support yourself while my lawyer handles the divorce details. Divorce? She looked up sharply. I don't want a divorce. You threw your wedding ring at me and declared our marriage was holding you back. I was emotional. People say things they don't mean when they're upset. You also spent 5 hours at a party with other men discussing investment opportunities that required my money. That wasn't emotional, it was calculated. Even if I could forgive last night, how do I trust you not to do it again the next time you get bored or feel underappreciated? She couldn't answer. Here's what's going to happen. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce proceedings. You can contest it if you want, but you should think hard about whether you want all this to become public record. Public record? I recorded our phone conversations last night. I have documentation of you planning to invest marital assets in schemes run by men you met at a gym. Her face went white. You recorded me? I documented you discussing investing our money with obvious scammers. That's something any reasonable person would want on the record. She just sat there, realizing she had no leverage left. I have nowhere to go. You should have thought of that before you declared our marriage was holding you back. What about my things? They're in boxes in the garage. Take them whenever you want. She looked towards the garage, then back at me. What about my car? Check the title. If your name's on it, it's yours. Her car was in my name. I had bought it for her birthday 2 years ago. You can't take my car. I'm not taking your car. I'm keeping my car, the one I let you use. The reality was hitting her. No home, no money, no car, no job, and the sophisticated investors weren't returning her calls. You're really just going to leave me with nothing? I'm leaving you with exactly what you brought into this marriage. 3 weeks later, my lawyer called. She'd hired representation. They were going for everything. Half the house, half my business assets, spousal support for 5 years while she builds her career. Let them try. They're building a narrative that you were financially controlling and emotionally abusive, that you isolated her from career opportunities and abandoned her when she tried to build financial independence. With documentation that she tried to invest our money with scammers. That's where it gets interesting. They're claiming Victor and Derek were legitimate business contacts, and that you were so controlling you couldn't tolerate her networking with successful people. Legitimate contacts who disappeared the second she couldn't access my money. Exactly what we're going to prove. 2 days later, I was in a conference room across from Vanessa and her lawyer. Vanessa looked different. Conservative outfit, minimal makeup, playing the part of the aggrieved wife. Her lawyer was sharp and aggressive. Mr. Johnson, my client has been rendered destitute by your punitive financial behavior following a minor marital disagreement. Minor marital disagreement. Can you explain why you unilaterally transferred all marital assets into accounts your wife had no access to? Because my wife declared our marriage was holding her back and left to pursue business opportunities with other men. She attended a networking event. That hardly justifies financial abandonment. She attended a party with men who were trying to con her into investing our money in fraudulent schemes. You have no proof they were fraudulent schemes. My lawyer slid a folder across the table with Victor's social media profiles, showing him at different parties with different women every week. Derek's LinkedIn with no actual business experience. Bank records showing neither had filed business taxes or registered legitimate companies. More importantly, we have recordings of Mrs. Johnson discussing these investment opportunities. He played the recording of Vanessa talking about Victor's $25,000 real estate syndication fund and Derek's $50,000 crypto fund, promising 20% monthly returns. Her lawyer's confidence faltered as she heard her client talking about giving huge sums to men she just met in exchange for impossible returns. Furthermore, we have statements from Mrs. Johnson where she claims the marriage was over. He played Vanessa saying our marriage was holding her back and declaring herself ready to explore other options. My client was emotional and not thinking clearly, her lawyer said weakly. Your client was making financial decisions while emotional. My client protected the marital assets from someone who declared herself no longer entitled to them. My lawyer pulled out another document. This is a police report. Victor Morrison and Derek Williams were arrested last week for investment fraud. They were running romance and financial scams targeting married women. Vanessa's face went white. They defrauded 19 women out of a total of $420,000 in 18 months. Mrs. Johnson would have been victim number 20 if her husband hadn't intervened. The lawyer looked at Vanessa, who was staring at the table. You didn't tell me they were arrested. I didn't know, Vanessa whispered. You didn't know because you never tried to contact them after that night, did you? Because they stopped returning your calls the moment you couldn't access your husband's money. The mediation lasted 4 hours. The lawyer tried different angles, but my lawyer had documentation for everything. Vanessa's pattern of financial irresponsibility, her abandonment of the marriage, her attempted fraud averted only by my intervention. Finally, the lawyer turned to Vanessa. Do you want to contest this in court? Vanessa looked at me, calculating her chances of convincing a judge she deserved half of everything after trying to invest our money with convicted felons. What would happen in court? She asked quietly. My lawyer answered, we would present all the evidence we've discussed today, plus additional documentation of your behavioral patterns, the recordings, social media evidence, police reports on Victor and Derek. It would be public record, I added. Anyone could look up the case and see exactly what happened. Vanessa imagined her family and friends reading about her involvement with scammers and her abandonment of our marriage. What is he offering? She asked quietly. My lawyer slid a document over. Your personal belongings and 90 days to get off the joint accounts. That's it. That's more than you're legally entitled to, given that you abandoned the marriage. After 20 minutes of private consultation, they returned. My client will sign, her lawyer said. Vanessa signed without looking at me. On her way out, she caught me in the hallway. I hope you're satisfied, she said bitterly. I'm at peace with it. You destroyed my life over one mistake. You destroyed your own life. I just documented it. I loved you. No, you loved what I could give you. When you thought you found someone who could give you more, you discarded me immediately. She had no comeback. Good luck rebuilding your life, I said, and walked away. 2 weeks later, the divorce was finalized. Vanessa received exactly what she had brought into the marriage, nothing. 6 months later, I was living my best life. The house was completely paid off. I'd expanded my business, hired for more employees, and was booked 8 months out on projects. I started dating Hannah, a nurse with her own career, money, and self-respect. Then, my lawyer called with an unexpected update. Remember Victor and Derek? They went to trial last month. Both convicted, sentenced to 4 to 6 years. But the victims are filing civil suits to recover their money. Good for them. This is where it gets complicated for your ex-wife. The prosecution used your recorded conversations as evidence. How so? Her discussions about investing $25,000 and $50,000 helped establish the pattern of fraud. The prosecution presented her as a potential victim who was saved by her husband's intervention. I see. Now, the actual victims want to know why she didn't lose money when they did. They found out it was because her husband cut her off from the funds specifically to prevent her from investing with Victor and Derek. I started to see where this was going. So they're arguing that she had inside knowledge of the scam or was working with Victor and Derek to identify potential victims? That's ridiculous. It is. But think about it from their perspective. Here's a woman close enough to the scammers to be talking about $50,000 investments, but who somehow never lost a dime. Meanwhile, they lost their life savings. 2 days later, Vanessa called me for the first time since the divorce. Daniel, I need your help. With what? These women, the ones who got scammed, they're saying I was involved. They want to sue me for conspiracy and fraud. Based on what evidence? On the fact that I was going to invest huge sums, but never did. They think I must have known it was a scam. You never invested anything because I cut you off from our money. I know that. You know that. But they don't believe it. They think I was working with Victor to identify wealthy targets. She was right. From the outside, it sounded suspicious. And what do you want me to do about it? I need you to give a statement, to say that you stopped me from investing, that I wasn't part of any scam. And why would I do that? Because it's the truth. And because I could go to jail if they convince a jury I was part of the conspiracy. You're not going to jail. Worst case, you'll be paying civil damages. I don't have money for damages. I'm working at a call center making $16 an hour. What happened to your entrepreneurial mindset? Your strategic thinking skills? Don't be cruel. I'm serious. These women lost hundreds of thousands, and they want someone to blame. I thought about it. Vanessa had brought this on herself by being greedy and gullible, but she wasn't actually part of the scam, just another target. I'll think about it. Please think about it, Daniel. They want to depose me next week. They're talking about criminal conspiracy charges. Then you'd better sound convincing. I hung up and called my lawyer. Vanessa's in trouble with the scam victims. I heard they think she was part of the operation. She wasn't. No, she was just a greedy target who got lucky because her husband was smarter than her. So, should you help her? Daniel, what's your goal here? Do you want Vanessa to go to prison? Do you want her to spend the next decade paying off civil damages? Or do you just want her to live with the natural consequences of her choices? I want her to learn that actions have consequences, but I don't want her punished for crimes she didn't commit. Then you need to give a statement. The next day, Vanessa called again, sounding desperate. Have you decided? I'll give a statement, but I want something in return. What? I want you to admit that everything that happened was your fault. No more blaming me for being controlling. No more pretending you were a victim. You take full responsibility for your choices. Long silence. Okay. I want you to admit that Victor and Derek were obvious scammers and that you ignored the signs because you were greedy and wanted easy money. Okay. And I want you to admit that I saved you from losing $50,000 by cutting you off from our money. Yes. Say it. Say it out loud. I want to hear you admit it. She was quiet for a long moment. You were right about Victor and Derek. They were scammers, and I was too greedy to see the obvious signs. If you hadn't cut me off from our money, I would have lost everything. You saved me from my own stupidity and greed, and everything that happened in our marriage was my fault. I was entitled and ungrateful, and I let a good man go because I thought I deserved more than I was willing to work for. Do you mean it? Yes, I mean it. I've had 8 months to think about what I lost, and I know I completely screwed up. I could hear her crying. Daniel, I lost everything. The house, the security, the marriage. I'm 27, making $16 an hour, living in a studio apartment, eating ramen noodles, and taking the bus to work. I know what I did wrong. And if these women weren't threatening to sue you, would you still be admitting you were wrong? Probably not. I was still blaming you for most of it until I realized I could face criminal charges for being greedy and stupid. At least she was honest. Okay, I'll give the statement. But Vanessa? Yes. This is the last time I help you with anything. After this, we're done for good. I understand. And Daniel? What? Thank you. I don't deserve your help, but thank you. The next day, I gave the deposition to the victims' attorneys. I explained exactly what happened, how Vanessa had been targeted by investment scammers, how she planned to invest our money in their schemes, and how I stopped it by securing our accounts. The lawyers were disappointed. They had hoped to recover money from Vanessa, but you can't get blood from a stone. A week later, my lawyer called with an update. The victims dropped their lawsuit against Vanessa. Good. But here's the interesting part. One of the victims was a woman named Melissa, who lost $95,000 to Victor. She asked me to pass a message to you. What message? She told me to tell you that you're lucky you married an obvious one instead of a subtle one. The subtle ones are better at hiding their betrayals. Melissa's husband trusted her with the financial decisions because she was a successful real estate agent. She invested their retirement savings with Victor because she was having an affair with him and thought he was going to leave his girlfriend for her. So Vanessa wasn't the only married woman Victor was targeting. Victor was running multiple schemes. Investment scam for some, romance scam for others, fear-based manipulation for the smarter ones. Vanessa fell into the investment category because she was so obviously about the money. In a twisted way, Vanessa's transparent greed saved our marriage from being destroyed by an actual affair. Exactly. If she'd been more subtle about her dissatisfaction, Victor might have seduced her instead of just trying to scam her. In a way, her entitled personality actually protected us from a worse betrayal. Over the next 6 months, Vanessa called me 23 times asking for favors. Help with rent when she got laid off from the call center. Help with car repairs. Help with medical bills when she got sick and realized her part-time job didn't include health insurance. I said no to all of it, not because I wanted to see her suffer, but because helping her meant continuing to enable the same entitled mindset that destroyed our marriage. The last time she called was different. Daniel, I'm not calling for money. Then what are you calling for? Advice. I met someone, and I don't want to screw it up like I did with you. What kind of advice? How do I stop being an entitled person? How do I learn to appreciate what I have instead of always wanting more? I wasn't expecting that. Why are you asking me? Because you were a good husband and I was a terrible wife, and now I'm with a good man and I can feel myself starting to want things he can't afford. Like what? Like a nicer apartment, eating out more often, having money for things that aren't necessities. What does he do? He's a teacher, makes about $42,000 a year. And what are you making now? I got promoted to a supervisor at a medical billing company. I'm making $19 an hour. So together, they were making about $80,000 a year. A decent life, but not the lifestyle Vanessa had grown accustomed to with me. Vanessa, I can't teach you how to be grateful. That's something you have to figure out on your own. But you must have some advice, some way to not feel like I'm settling. You want my honest advice? Yes. Remember what happened the last time you thought you were settling. Remember what you lost when you decided you deserved more than you had. She was silent. Is that how you see it? As something I lost. I see it as something you threw away because you thought you could find something better. And did you? I thought about Hannah, the one who insisted on splitting every restaurant bill, who brought her own money into our relationship, who had her own career and goals and didn't need me to fund her lifestyle. The one who built our life together instead of demanding I hand it to her. Yes, I found something much better. Good, she said, and she sounded sincere. I hope you're happy. I am. And Vanessa. Yes. I hope you learn to be happy with what you have, because chasing what you think you deserve is what got you into trouble in the first place. I'm learning. It's harder than I thought. The worthwhile things always are. That was our last conversation. A year later, I heard from mutual friends that Vanessa had gotten engaged to the teacher. Apparently, she'd learned how to cook, started budgeting carefully, and even picked up a weekend tutoring job to help save for the wedding. Good for her. Maybe almost losing everything finally taught her the value of appreciating what she had. As for me, I married Hannah 18 months later in a small ceremony at our house. The same house Vanessa once called too small and too far from civilization. We bought a vacation property in Colorado, paid for with both our incomes. We split everything down the middle because we both contributed equally. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.